A decade later, the detective powers of Scotland Yard were tested again by a most unlikely criminal, Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen. The mild-mannered American Dr. Crippen and his wife Belle Elmore, whose real name was Cora, came to London in 1900.
He was a doctor in patent medicine. He couldn't practice here. But he brought with him Belle Elmore. She was an operatic singer, or at least she wanted to be.
The Crippens' marriage was not a happy one.
I think Dr. Crippen is probably an epitome of a henpecked husband. His wife, Cora, was bigger than he was. And in fact, there's not much doubt she entertained lovers in the house when he was there, and he had to take them tea and biscuits afterwards.
Spurned by his overbearing wife, the 48-year-old Crippen turned to his secretary, 27-year-old Ethel de Neve. They began a torrid affair. Despite his newfound love, Crippen's home life was unbearable. His wife spent most of her time with the theatre district's social set.
On the 31st of January 1910, they'd entertained some people at the house playing whist, and after the people had gone at 1:30 in the morning, Cora Crippen admonished and laid into Dr. Crippen because of the way he'd treated the people that had been there. And that was the last time she was seen, when those people left that house that time.
Cora Crippen's sudden disappearance was easily explained by her husband. He told her friends she'd gone to California to visit an ailing relative. Soon after, Ethel de Neve moved in with Dr. Crippen under the guise of being the new housekeeper.
They would go out to functions where she would wear, and we're talking here within a month of the Cora Crippen dying, wearing her jewellery. They went to a dinner and dance where she wore her mink coat. Cora Crippen had had some friends, and they were very suspicious about this because they couldn't believe her leaving all her clothes and all her jewellery and everything.
Several months later, Dr. Crippen informed his wife's suspicious friends that she'd died of pneumonia in California. The friends were skeptical of Crippen's tale, so they went to Scotland Yard. They were sent to Chief Inspector Walter Dew. Dew was an experienced detective whose caseload had included the Jack the Ripper investigation. He listened to their story and agreed to pay Dr. Crippen a visit.
When they went to see Crippen, he said yes, she had gone back to the States to visit a sick relative, and she had since died. And that was the end of Cora, poor thing. But they kept on at him. And then he threw his hands up and he said, "I've lied." Well, when a suspect tells you that, you think you are, oh yes, we're on the home straight. Just a short canter and we'll put the handcuffs on. But he said he put that story around because she'd actually gone off with another man and he didn't want to lose face. They had a look around the place and they found various articles packed up. And they put this to him and he said, yes, we're going to move soon.
Dew left believing Crippen's story. But over the next few days, he had second thoughts and returned to the doctor's home at 39 Hilldrop Crescent, Holloway. But Crippen was gone. Dew brought in more detectives to investigate the home and surrounding yard. 3 days later, they made a gruesome discovery.
They had found bits of body underneath the floor of the cellar in the house in which he lived. And they had been boned because there was no head, no limbs, no skeleton, just the flesh.
She was in some kind of dressing gown. Part of the body had been worn away. They realized then that it was his wife. So they put the alarm out. Headlines exploded over our papers then. Find Dr. Crippen.
The search for Dr. Crippen became a transatlantic race to catch a killer. Following the discovery of a dismembered torso in Dr. Crippen's cellar, Scotland Yard's Chief Inspector Walter Dew raised the alarm. He sent a telegraph message calling for the capture of the doctor and his mistress, Ethel de Neve.
Crippen had gone on the boat with Ethel de Neve dressed as a boy, and they had gone on the boat under the name of John Robinson and Master Robinson, the 16-year-old son. But Captain Kendall suspected something, not very clever. I think he caught them kissing and cuddling behind a lifeboat. Didn't take too much to realise that dads don't do that with sons too often.
Kendall telegraphed Scotland Yard with news of the suspicious couple on board his ship. When word reached Walter Dew, he booked a passage on a faster ship in the hopes of arriving in Canada ahead of the fugitives.
The whole world watched this chase, the 11-day chase across the Atlantic Ocean. And the captain of the ship sent back regular reports on the telegraph.
Dew won the race to Canada and arrested Dr. Crippen and Ethel de Neve on the deck of the SS Montrose. They were extradited to England, where they stood trial for the murder of Cora Crippen. Crippen pleaded innocent, claiming the body found in the cellar was not that of his wife and must have been placed there before they had moved in. It was up to Scotland Yard's forensics team to prove otherwise.
We know that Mrs. Crippen died of hyoscine poisoning. We don't know when or how Crippen administered it.
Pathologist Bernard Spilsbury was also able to identify a scar on the remains, consistent with the hysterectomy Cora Crippen had undergone a year earlier. But the most damning piece of evidence was a label on the pajamas in which the body parts had been wrapped. The label, which read Jones Brothers Limited, contradicted Crippen's claim that the body had been placed in the cellar prior to 1905.
Evidence is now brought to the Old Bailey to show that on that pyjama jacket, shirt makers Jones Brothers Limited, Jones Brothers wasn't made a limited company until 1908, which showed that the body had gone in after Crippen, and that pyjama jacket, I always think, hung Dr. Crippen.
Ethel de Neve was acquitted. Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen was found guilty and hanged in Pentonville jail. The high-profile case of the mild-mannered killer proved groundbreaking in several ways.
What's made it so notorious was the fact it was the first arrest made as a result of a wireless or radio message.
Chief Inspector Walter Dew became the first Scotland Yard superstar because he was known to have caught Crippen. In fact, he called his memoirs I Caught Crippen. But in fact, when he first interviewed Crippen, he believed his story and let him go. So he could almost have said, I lost Crippen.